Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the HalfGen podcast where the shenanigans have already begun.
Hello there.
Hello there. We're back for this month's episode, the month being September. If you're listening to this on the 30th, congratulations. You understood the assignment. We did.
Yeah.
The least you can do is...
Just common courtesy, really.
I mean, really? Is it that difficult? Ross, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. I'm glad we've expanded our scope of content we cover to beyond video games because I haven't played a single video game in the month of September.
This is great for the audio listeners.
Yep. They just check it. No, the time is still running on the podcast.
It's definitely still going. All right. Well,
how about you, man?
I've played some games.
Yeah.
I have some things to talk about.
Sure. I have things to talk about too.
However, I want to start with the thing I did last night / today. My PC.
He did his PC, folks.
I did my PC. I
Clap it up.
What?
Put a ring on it.
Wait.
Nani?
I felt like it was time. I have replaced the cube with, I believe I'm going to call this one Titan. Somebody said I need to get like a sticker from Destiny, the Destiny Titan, and put it on there. So that's my new mission, is getting one of those.
Nice.
This will be Titan.
Or I feel like you should get one of your branded stickers to put on it. It has a Titan on it. Oh, look at that. That would be a great sticker.
I think I can make stickers, actually.
I'm sure you can.
I'm sure that's a thing I can do.
Oh, 100%.
Things to consider. Yeah, so with the new Ryzen processors coming out and all that, I decided I was going to take the plunge. I purchased over the, say, month and a half prior to, so since mid-August, I have been kind of buying things here and there for my PC. First it was like, okay, I'm going to buy the case because I know the case is the safest thing to buy. Open it up. As long as the glass isn't broken, what's going to be, for the most part, what's going to be wrong with the case, right? So sure. Gave it a once over. I'm like, cool. I got a Fractal Torrent, which made a lot of other decisions for me in the process. The Fractal Torrent, I've been watching a lot more like Gamers Nexus, and they go real deep into like benchmarking and kind of, getting into the nitty gritty of like, how does the case impact the cooling? Mm-hmm. And the Fractal Torrent was one I kept seeing towards the top. And so I was like, what the heck is this case? And I looked it up one day and I was like, oh, it's beautiful. Okay, this is also going to play well for the audio folks, but this is the PC here. So it's got a really nice like front grille shape. Like I like that a lot. I don't know if you can, if you're vibing with me right now, Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah.
Dual 180 millimeter fans at the front.
That helps.
Pre-installed.
Oh, nice.
Triple 140 millimeter fans at the bottom for active cooling on the GPU.
Yeah.
It is I believe that, this is positive static pressure. Or not positive static pressure. It is, I don't remember the exact term, but basically it's all intake. Mm-hmm. From the front, from the bottom, it's all intake. And then I have a Noctua, I always forget the letters, the NHU12A, which is this, monolith right there. That thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just one big old like honking heat stack with two of their high static pressure fans on it. And that one on the other end is the only exhaust in my PC. Hold on.
Oh, wow.
That's the only exhaust in
not
the
on
PC.
The top?
No, that's where the power supply goes, in there. Where you see that RGB strip, power supply lives inside of that, which is why it's an airflow focused case. That's why I went air cooling. It's because this case is built with airflow in mind.
Sure.
With the dual, huge fans at the front, it's quiet. It moves a lot of air. I got a really good cooler that would do the same. And I mean, Noctua is S tier. Like even if it was brown, I got the Chromax, so it's black. I would have done the brown. Honestly, I really don't hate that. Like Noctua is just so good that it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
In my eyes, at least. So I got that. I'm just kind of looking at it while I'm talking. So over the course, I kind of bought what I thought was safe. So I bought that. I bought the power supply because it was an Amazon deal of the day, and it was a 1200 watt EVGA Supernova. Which is a
Jesus
very
Christ.
highly rated power supply. Well, that's for the future. That's for when I get my
Sure, yeah.
4090,
Yeah.
Uh,
I was like 1200.
1200. It's got its own power strip.
Like a
It's just
power
plugged
small
into its
country.
own outlet with its own
Yep.
power surge protector.
Luxembourg runs off of one of those.
Yeah, no, but yeah. So I got that going. And I bought that because it was too good of a deal to pass up. It was like a considerable amount off. So I was like, you know what? Whatever. This made my decision for me because I was looking at like some thermal take one that was like 240, and it brought the Supernova down to that price, which made it a no-brainer. Just in terms of quality, not I would have been more than happy with the thermal take. It was an RGB, but like that's not going to do anything. It enclosed in a thing that doesn't accomplish anything. It just would have been some light coming down on the cooler. But yeah, so I ended up doing all that. And then I bought the cooler once I learned that the AM5 bracket, I'm sorry, I have such an awful habit. I'm looking at myself talking because I'm paying attention to who's talking. Yeah. And so I'm looking at myself on the screen talking, and my camera's over here, and I'm terrible. It's an awful habit.
You're good. You're good. Why don't you just hide the window?
No, because it keeps me focused.
Oh, okay.
Keeps me focused. Because then when you're talking, I'm looking right at you, and you're below the camera.
Oh, why don't you just put a window over your section of the camera?
I don't know if I can do that. Can I pop? See, I used to be able to like pop out.
Oh yeah.
And then I move it over when we did like Zencaster and stuff, and I can't do that in Meet. Actually, you know what I could do? Hold on.
Here we go.
Here
we go. We're doing it live, folks.
Oh yeah.
Doing it live.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just did a pop out preview from OBS.
Hell yeah.
This is the strat now. And then I can just kind of hide the other thing now. And I don't need to worry about it. Perfect. So yeah. So basically AMD changed their socket, which is how you install the CPU. So Ross, you remember when we bought yours, it had the pins on the CPU lined up with the little holes, and you pushed it in, tension, you're done. Okay.
Yeah.
They are now using an LGA socket, which is what Intel uses. So instead of putting the pins on the processor, they put the pins on the motherboard.
I feel like that makes more sense.
In a lot of ways, yes. It's also, theoretically, you're also less likely to have those pins get damaged just because it's easier to kind of control. A power supply is, or not a power supply, excuse me, a CPU is a small thing, easy to drop, easy to kind of fumble it. True. So more likely to cause damage on something like that. Whereas a motherboard, you're probably not going, even if you did drop the motherboard, first, shame on you. But second, the odds of something getting in there and damaging it, like unless you drop the CPU on it, that's a different story.
Unless you drop it in some sauce.
Yeah. So anyway, they kept the same backplate as the AM4. So basically, Noctua, that's what I was looking for because I was waiting because I was like, I'm not buying a cooler until I know what the compatibility looks like. And Noctua just updated all their AM4 coolers to AM5, and they said, yeah, so it uses the same backplate, so all of our coolers are automatically compatible with it.
Yeah, nice.
So theoretically, I could have used the same AIO that was in my other one, but again, air cooling this time. So we pop that on, boom. Day comes, the 27th, and I'm hoping anywhere near me is going to have this stuff in stock. Amazon hasn't listed it yet. Newegg is telling me, late, a couple days. Best Buy's telling me like beginning of October, which again, not too long. And I'm like, okay, look at Micro Center. 25 plus in stock, 10 plus of the motherboard, 10 plus of the RAM. And so I get in my car and I drive to Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is about 90 miles away, an hour and 20 minutes. I dodged the traffic.
Nice.
I went to Micro Center. I walked in. They were like, can we help you? I said, yeah, I want to get a Ryzen set up. And they were like, cool, this guy can help you. I was like, okay, I want a 7900X, which they had over 100 of them by the time I got there. Over 100. So when AMD said they were ready to meet demand, they meant it. You can probably go out and buy one of these CPUs right now, which is such a refreshing change of pace. Let me tell you. It makes me optimistic for when these GPUs come out, which I guess we'll talk about that later too. So we have, so I got that, and I'm like looking through, I'm like, I need a motherboard, but I don't remember exactly which one I was looking at online. And he's like, well, let me show you the ones we have. And he's scrolling, and I see it. I'm like, boom, that one right there. It's this ROG Strix motherboard. Hold on. Box for the video watchers here. So what's nice is my case is white, and the accenting on this is all white. And my fans are black, and the back, the back of this is all black. So it really fit the aesthetic of the build, which was nice. Yeah. Let me tell you, this was a $420 motherboard. Micro Center is weird because they don't overcharge for parts, but they're one of those weird places that like raises the price and then marks it down to whatever MSRP is. So it kind of looks like they're doing you a favor, but they're not. However, they had it, and it was at a good price. And I actually saved $20 on this for some reason.
Oh, don't question.
So yeah. So let me tell you, I am never, ever buying a mid-tier motherboard ever again. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Why? Okay. First off, no IO shield. It's built in. It's just there. Nothing to forget. Oh. Also, look at all the ports on this thing.
There's a lot of ports.
Dude, because the new CPUs, like when I tested it, my first build, I was streaming from my old PC, and I used my GPU for the encoding. Well, I needed the GPU anyway because the processor didn't have a built-in one. Didn't have a built-in, like, dedicated video.
Yeah.
The new Ryzen ones do. So I unplugged the display port from this monitor, plugged it into my motherboard, which has a display port, and tested it. It worked.
Yeah.
And first boot, it all turned on. But yeah. So, dude, let me tell you, one of the coolest things. So you remember, Ross, when you're building, and like this is where the GPU goes, and you know how much of a pain in the ass it is to get that little thing there to release the GPU?
Yep.
So they put a little plastic button right there. And do you know what that does?
Releases the GPU.
When you push it, it's connected to that thing, and it pulls it down and releases the GPU.
That's way better.
And I'm just like, oh my God. It also has a built-in button on here to clear the CMOS. Instead of having to take that little battery out. You know what that little battery is? And you see it on your motherboard, that little big the disk circular battery. Yeah. So that controls like your CMOS. So like that controls the settings in your BIOS. So when you set stuff up in your UEFI, in your BIOS, whatever, that battery, it's kind of like the memory on a Game Boy cartridge, that keeps that stuff intact. Because when your PC turns off, if it's not getting power, it still needs to remember that stuff.
Right.
And small enough that battery will last like almost forever. It's why Game Boy cartridges just started dying a couple years ago, So anyway, when I first tried to, I was texting you earlier, when I first tried to set up Expo, which is how Ryzen sets their RAM timings now. It's kind of like, have you ever heard the term, like the thing XMP?
I've heard it. Yeah.
So basically XMP sets the RAM up to work best with Intel. That's Intel's thing, is XMP. Ryzen, prior to this, had a system called DCOP or DOCP. I don't remember which one it is. But basically what it did is it adjusted those to kind of like work as, better with Ryzen. But Expo is their XMP. So basically, when you buy Expo compatible RAM, that RAM is tuned specifically for AMD processors.
Makes sense.
So I got a 6,000 kit of that while I was at Micro Center. So I got my motherboard, I got my RAM, and I got my CPU, my 7900X. It's like $1,300. I was there for 20 minutes. I got back in my car. I drove home.
Yep.
I drove 2 hours and 40 minutes to get this stuff. I came home. I built it. I was slow. I was cautious. It was a little under 2 hours to build, which I know for a lot of people probably sounds like a long time, but I take my time. I cannot afford to break anything because PCs are expensive.
Yep. Yes, they are.
So, it was that golden moment where I plug it in, the little RGB strip on the motherboard lights up, and I'm like, oh yeah, push the power button. The one issue I have with Ryzen, I heard about this pre-release, is that for whatever reason, the boot times on these things are atrocious. I shouldn't say the boot time. The time from which you press the power button to the time where it displays something on the screen. My motherboard will sit there with a red light on for like 10 seconds and I'm just staring.
Oh, especially on a new build, you're like, oh, something's broken.
I was like, I know you work. You've booted already. And then it just goes white, green. Okay. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Does your motherboard say okay when it turns on?
No, it goes green. Green light means we're good. Green means go. That would be fun. You can get that.
Green,
there are motherboards that display like the little codes. I think you could probably get it to say okay. But yeah, so last night I tested it. Today I moved over. I got all the I got a 4 terabyte NVMe in there for like all my games and stuff. Really fast Gen 4. Really very happy about that. I think that's in a Gen 4 spot. Yeah, because it's 2 Gen 5s and 2 Gen 4s. Yeah. I was just trying to remember. That's the other thing, dude, is there's no Gen 3 on here, which is fine because Gen 3 would still work if I put it in here. But it's 2 Gen 5 rated NVMe slots and then 2 Gen 4s, which is amazing because now I left one of them open so I could just future-proof that right off the rip. But yeah, that, once I got it up, installing Windows 11 cannot find my network for whatever reason. It's a wired connection. So I have to command prompt my way out of it. I finally get it set up. It boots into Windows, says no connection, then says, oh, I found it. Oh, we're good. Immediately connects to the internet.
Perfect.
Because I thought I was screwed because, the Asus, the Armory Crate thing comes up and it's like, yeah, we can install your LAN driver, cool. I'm like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And it's like, no internet connection detected. And I'm like, what? How does this even happen? But yeah, no, we fought our way through that. I've been installing stuff all day. Man, so I booted up Destiny. It was the first game I installed. Not the only game I installed, but the first one. Sure. I had a noticeably better frame rate in areas that so now I can see where my CPU was bottlenecking a little bit. So I was having crazy problems, and that was even before I updated my drivers or anything. I went back in after and everything was the same. But like my GPU drivers, but I was having these problems. Like my frame rate just kind of felt stuttery, even though it said it was high. It was situations where like I'd be in zones and I would get dips into like the 50s, sometimes the 40s. And I'm like, this had never happened before. I was in a zone that recently was giving me a lot of problems, was dipping again. It was like, sub 70, like low 60s. I shit you not. Enemies were falling left and right onto the screen. I did not dip below 100.
Nice.
And so that just was right there, was like, okay, CPU bottleneck. Let's go. I'm like, let's go. We're good. So that was nice. And then when I get the new GPU, I'll be able to, still kind of push that a little bit more. I'm really looking forward to the 40 series stuff. Without getting too much into it, they're doing some weird stuff. These new GPUs are going to be very expensive.
Yeah.
This is a real opportunity if AMD can bring their prices down and if they can have their performance anywhere close, they could run away with this because they have at the top. This is where I'm at. The only one I really want to upgrade to is the 4090 because it's the only one that on paper looks like a big enough upgrade over what I have to
Is
be
it going to
worth
be a
it.
70, 80, 90 again?
No.
No.
So I'm going to get the 90. It's $1,600.
Yep.
And that's for the founders. I don't know what the third party ones are going to be. This is going to be a friggin' nightmare. So I'm probably going to get that because that's the one that looks like the upgrade. There is also a new 4080, which they compare to the 3080 Ti, and they say it can provide up to double the performance of that. And that is $1,199, so $1,200 for that one, which fits right in. I don't know why they didn't just call it a Ti. Why didn't they just call that a 4080 Ti? Because there's another 4080.
What?
There's another 4080, but it's a completely different chip from the other 4080.
Is there any name difference at all?
RTX 4080.
That's what both of them
It's
are.
just, yeah, one of them is $899, the other one is $1199. And the $899 one, it's in theory, so because of the change from Ampere to Lovelace, I think that, yeah, Ada Lovelace, I think is what they call it after the scientist. The architectural differences will provide a substantial boost regardless. But like when you statistically look at it, like, and this is why you can't compare like CUDA cores and talk like that and be like, oh, well, this is obviously better. But when you look at it, it has less CUDA cores, which is AMD or NVIDIA's kind of like compute unit thing.
Are they
It has
similar to flops?
no
Okay, cool.
flops are
Continue.
like a result,
Uh,
they're not a means, they are a result.
if-
CUDA cores create flops.
Jeez, for everyone listening, we're gonna have a techie side of people listening, and we're gonna have a me side of people.
Don't
listening. I
worry,
hope
they're
both
all
are
going to be
annoying.
upset because the techie side people are going to be like, he's not explaining that as well as he could be. And then the other people are going to be like, he's not explaining this in a way that he should be. But anyway, on paper, like it has less numbers than the 3080 that's in my system right now in a lot of ways. The bus size is smaller, the CUDA core count is smaller.
Let's not body shame with bust size here, please.
BUS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's weird because like the 30 series cards were so good and such a revelation when they came out because they were affordable, they were a huge technology bump, and like they felt really good.
Mhm.
And then the 40 series is coming out, and there's the 4090, which looks like the god tier GPU. And then there's the two 4080s, and it's just like, I believe you that these are better, but they don't feel better when I look at the paper.
Mm-hmm.
You put the paper in my hand, and I look, and I'm like, Did I read this right? The bus size 182. Last gen they were 384. 182 for 899. Really? But hey, I'm not NVIDIA. I'm sure these cards are very powerful. I'm sure they're going to be worth it for the right people. The thing is they basically build all these cards. So like, like a 3090 was built, and then like they build multiple GPUs. So like your high-end GPUs are basically all cut from the same basic board. And then when they go down from like an 80 to a 70, that's a different board. Because it has less. It has less stuff. It's supposed to be more economical.
Sure.
So normally, that's why you would have a 90, 80, 70. Instead, they did a 90, an 80 and a much worse 80 on a completely different board
So there's no
from
70
the
at all.
other 80. That's the thing. The 70 is the budget. So the 70 is the high end of the budget. So
there's
like
four.
the 70 came out, I think, at $599 or $499. I believe it might have been like $499 for the 4070. That's like the high end of the budget, like mid tier. Like the 4070 is the high, like mid high.
So
That's your 1080p, 1440p kind of. It will run those games. It will run them at 60, and you'll be glad you have it. When you want to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So there are 4 cards. There's the 90, there's the 280s, and then there's the 70. There's more.
No, that's it. So here's the thing. That's the point I'm trying to get to. There is no 70 announced at this point.
Oh, I thought you just said there was a 70.
No, there's no 4070.
Oh, I thought you just said that was the high end of the economical.
No, so the 3070 is the high end of like the mid tier, and then they do like a 3070 Ti and stuff like that. I'm just I'm kind of explaining from tradition. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
The 70 is built on a different board than the 80. It's not a scaled back board of the same one. It's just a completely different board because it's built to fit that budget. Sure. The board they are using for the other 4080, a lot of people thought it was a 4070. But you can't price a 4070 at $899.
True.
I think they could have just named their way out of this by just calling it a 4080 Ti at the high end for $1199, because that's what people expect to spend on a Ti. And then it goes from, oh my God, the good 4080 is $1199 to, okay, I got the Ti at that, and then I got this at $899. Okay, and then when the 70 comes out, the problem is the other 4080 is so stripped down compared to the good one, because it's 16 gigs compared to 12 gigs. It's, less bus speed, less compute. It's a lesser device, top to bottom, in noticeable ways. How much more are they going to have to cut down the 70?
Yeah.
So like the problem is they're stacked. The deck is stacked high, and it's like we're probably going to get a $699 4070. And it's probably going to be a scaled back version of the 4080. Of the lesser 4080. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they used the same board for that one and just scaled it back. But like the thing becomes, if the difference is too wide, people aren't just going to spend $890. Like, it's one thing if it's a $499 and then like a $699. And it's like, okay, you know what? There's enough of a bonus for me. 3080 was a no-brainer because 3070 wasn't going to cut it for what I want to do. High frame rate, ultra wide, stuff like that. I could do it on a 3070, but the 3080 is enough of a boost that it makes it worth it for me. For the folks looking at that, and they're looking at the $899 4080, and they're just like, okay, this is already like kind of a bad deal, theoretically. We'll know more when they come out and they get tested. There's a lot of things with like DLSS 3. We should talk about DLSS 3. That shit sounds wild. But there's a lot that goes into it. But if you're talking about an already scaled back different board version of a 4080, and then you have to scale that down again, and you're starting that around like $699, let's say.
It's like that cut in performance. Like, at what point does it just make more sense for people to buy like old 30 series cards, like high level 30 series cards?
Funny you should say that.
Yeah.
So anyway, 4070, if it's not powerful enough at $699, people aren't just going to buy the $899 4080 because that's such a budget jump. It's already $699 for a 4070. In theory, this is all in theory.
Mm-hmm.
If the performance gap is wide enough, then sure, then people are just going to wait and they're just not going to buy it, and they're going to see what AMD can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or if the gap is too close, you're pricing that 4080 out of the market. Because if it's only like a 10 to 20% reduction, but it's like a 30 to 40% price reduction, no, not 30 to 40, but you know what I mean. If it's that much of a price reduction that matches, and it's like, hey, this is totally worth it at this price, and it does DLSS 3 and all that stuff, then they're going to price that 4080 out of the market.
Right.
And they're inevitably going to do a TI card for a 4090, so that's going to come out someday. And then they might still do a 3080 Ti. Because again, because they didn't do it with this one, leads me to believe they want to do it still. And so that's going to end up being a $1,400 GPU. So, NVIDIA's value is all at the top.
I feel like that's kind of how they've been
Not with
compared
the
to
30,
AMD,
dude,
right?
with the 30 series, they killed it. They knocked it out of the park, dude. 399, 3060 was a great deal. 499 or 599, I don't remember, for the 3070 was a great deal. 699 for the 3080, was a freaking steal. 3080 might be one of the best value GPUs ever made.
Yeah. NVIDIA cards are generally higher priced than AMD cards, right?
Yes, not
Okay.
as higher priced as you would think,
Yeah.
but yes. But the performance
Right.
historically
that's the big thing. Yeah.
has been worth it in the AMD era. Back in the ATI days, they would trade on games.
Mm-hmm.
The number of games they trade on nowadays, you could probably count on two hands,
Gotcha.
and that's being generous. It's not that AMD cards are bad. AMD took a huge step in the RDNA era. They have taken huge steps between the 5000 series cards and then the 6000 series cards. Those have both been very good jumps, very good. There have been value propositions there that have been worth it for people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, NVIDIA, in Don Matrick fashion, have just said, hey, if you can't afford our 40 series cards, but you still want, we have a product for you. It's the RTX 3070.
Amazing.
And so they're still selling the 30 series cards.
Yep.
Because they know how
good
they were.
I got a 3070 mobile in my laptop. It's
Dude,
awesome.
I know 3070 mobile is a good GPU.
It's a good GPU, man. I can run anything pretty much.
And honestly, with the prices being what they are, you could probably get a regular 3070 for not a ton of money,
Yeah, just stick it in my desktop.
And a notable upgrade over your 1080.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But that's the thing, is they're still selling those 30 series cards.
Yeah.
And I get it. That's smart because, again, I really think that is their best value and best overall performing card since the 10 series, which, there was only one series between that, but the 30 series GPUs were they were something else. That was a time to be alive in GPUs. They were good.
When did the 40 series cards release? Or the ones that are out?
October 17th is when the 4090 comes out, and then the 4080s come out in November, I believe.
Gotcha. And one more time, which one are you going for?
I'm going with the 4090.
4090. Big boy card this time.
You know what? I went big boy. I resisted the urge to get the 32 thread CPU. I was like, no, you know what? 7900X, that's what I want. That's what I need. I'm not going to use. But
are all those extra threads, is that for video production and rendering and stuff?
A lot of it, yeah. It ends up being for that stuff. But as games become more and more multi-thread, the other benefit is, even if it doesn't use all 24 threads, it can clock higher on the 6 threads it's using. I was playing Destiny. Threads. I was playing Destiny, and my CPU was at so my old. This one is rated at I think a boost up to 5.7 gigahertz and a base at 4.7 or 5. Yeah, I think it's 4.7 base and a 5.8 maybe boost, something like that. Some crazy, ridiculous number. I was playing Destiny. It was at 5.5 on the cores that it needed for Destiny. It was running at 5.5.
So is that just
where I used to run on my 3090 about 4.2?
Yeah. So when it comes to those threads, is it that they have higher capacity? So even if they're less being used, there's more bandwidth for them to be able to do stuff?
Basically, each core has 2 logical threads, and each of those threads can use the capacity of that core. To do different tasks. And basically, when you have a task that, say, requires 6 threads, the CPU will not use additional threads. What it will do is it will take those cores and it will boost their clocks so that they can use the threads that need it more effectively. And so they turn out better performance. And you're saving on thermals and you're saving on power draw because you're not pushing it to those other threads. Whereas something like a render, the more threads, the better, because it can distribute that work across
Mhm.
multiple logical threads.
Right. That makes
And
sense.
so it's going to max each of those out, but it's going to divide that workload into 24ths,
Mhm.
you know?
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It eliminates the bottleneck.
Right. Whereas
Yeah.
games can't do that. Games aren't built to do that. They're built to use, the cores in front of them, and it scales that to to the best effect. And so it's like, okay, we're going to use these six cores, and each of them is going to do something different. And then the CPU says, okay, well, I'm going to boost these so that they can do this faster.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the weird things with the new AMD CPUs is 95 is the new normal.
Like
So
operating at 95% of a core?
95 degrees.
Oh.
So under a full load, these are designed to boost. They gave them a lot of thermal overhead to boost to
Mhm.
these higher clocks. So basically, they raised all their all their power requirements to allow these chips to boost. And basically, they're designed to boost to 95 degrees and just take whatever they can to get to that temperature. And if you want, you can unlock them and run them at up to 115.
Wow.
But the idea is they're designed to run at 95 permanent. Like you can run them at
Mhm.
95 degrees and it will not deteriorate the CPU in any
Okay.
like negative abnormal way.
Right. Are games working their way toward utilizing threads more,
Games
or is
are
that just
working
not possible?
Games are, and
Okay.
the consoles are a big help for that. Using Zen architecture is going to
Mhm.
help them. It's going to help developers. Why these PlayStation ports have been so good is because they're already
Um,
using multi-threaded processing.
oh, I see,
You
I
know,
see.
so
Okay.
when they come out, they can translate that a little more effectively.
Right.
And you're just translating that onto better horsepower.
Gotcha,
Onto
gotcha, gotcha.
better chips. So games are every day more and more games are taking advantage of multi-threaded processing, and that's only going to continue. So, you know, the thread race is probably done for a while. Intel just announced like their Raptor Lake, and they've got a lot of answers for AMD, and we're back to a point where there's competition. AMD and Intel are trading blows again in a way that's like exciting for everybody,
Mhm.
because it's not just, well, Ryzen is the multi-thread and Intel is single core. It's AMD has been eating they've been eating the gamers lunch for a while. That Intel, they used to be Intel's bread and butter, and now Intel has clapped back and they're like, no, we can do the games, but we can also do the multi-threaded processing. Watch this shit. We
Mhm.
also priced our top CPU under theirs, because
Right.
theirs starts at 589, whereas AMD's for the top of the line is 699.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I paid 499 for no 599 for mine. I think 549. 549 is what I paid for mine. And that was the thing for 6 cores and 12, or for 6 cores and 8 thread, not 6 cores. For 4 cores and 8 threads, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to spend an extra $150.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially when I'm not going to be utilizing them. Like if I was in a full workstation, like if I was a full-time YouTuber, absolutely.
mhm. Yeah,
For
yeah, of
me,
course.
I'm going to render this podcast, you know?
Yeah.
I don't need 24 threads is more than enough, especially because I video encode. That's the other thing, and that's the other reason why I want the 4090. Is they're updating the encoder on that, so the NV encoder is getting a new generation, which is going to be huge for me because that's how I do my stuff. That's how I'm rendering this, recording this with the NV encoder. They're also adding AV1 support, which is a new encoding format, which basically they say, like, if you're streaming at 1080p 60 right now, with AV1, you'll be able to stream at 1440p 60 without changing any of your settings. All the quality, the same settings.
Wow.
So it's just a better encoder. So I'll be able to go from like 900p to 1080p because I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want to
Mhm.
use I don't want my GPU having to like overwork for that. I want the frames. I'm greedy. You guys lucky you get the 1080p, you get the 60, and you say thank you, sir. Thank you.
You don't need
You
me
don't
spacing
pay
in
for my
4K.
GPU. You don't get to tell me how to use it. um, but yeah, having the AV1 encoding, and honestly, that might even make like the GPUs are going to be better encoders than CPUs. You know, um, but yeah, having that as like a tool available to me is going to be huge. Just because then that's going to be less taxing on my GPU because it's going to be better encoding, which means I can pump up the frame rate a little bit more here and there. And that's going to be really neat. So that's why I'm going 4090 is just like that's where I'm going to spend the money for the overhead. Because
Mhm.
I'm dumb and I've
I mean, this is a huge part of your life. You stream a lot. It's a
I
big
know,
part of
and
who
I
you
wish
are.
that huge part of my life actually paid for the huge investments I put into it.
Oh, yeah. No. Nope.
I wish there
We've been
was a
trying for
return.
years.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
Nope. Nope.
But what was I gonna say? Yeah. So, God, I didn't think I'd be talking about this for so long, and I apologize. Last thing I want to talk about
Sure.
actually two things. So the ray tracing upgrades that they're doing are kind of astounding. So
Mhm.
like they're adding like new ray tracing stuff to Cyberpunk. And basically like the way they're talking about it is, it used to be like, you could render like 64 like, light refractions and stuff.
Mhm.
They're bumping that up to like 300.
That's a big jump.
Yeah. But the thing is that's where DLSS 3 comes into play.
Right.
DLSS, so the deep learning super sampling. Basically, what that did is generation one, it took an image at 1080p and it would try and up it to 4K, and it did it with mixed results. And then they launched the second generation of that, and it worked. It just
Mhm.
worked, baby.
Yeah.
And DLSS is like anytime DLSS is an option, I turn it on, and I
Mhm.
have never noticed it
Yeah. And so
except in my frames
for
because
people who
it's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, no, I was just gonna say for people who have absolutely no idea what the benefits are of DLSS, and correct me if I'm wrong, it allows you to play games at lower settings. So if you don't have the best graphics card in the world or a low CPU, but then upscales the image quality to a as if you were on higher settings, correct?
Yeah. So basically, what it does is say you want to target 1440p.
Mhm.
I want 1440p, and cool. So what DLSS does is instead of running the game natively at 1440p, which is more taxing on the GPU, it
Right.
says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run this game at 1080p. And then I'm going to use all these AI algorithms to make it look like it's 1440p.
Right. Right.
So you get the look of the resolution you want, but the performance closer to the resolution it is rendering.
So it's a benefit to lower power
It's a
machines.
benefit to higher powered machines too, like mine, because I get a better frame rate.
True.
So
True. And
instead of having to run at 60 frames, I could get 90, 100, so I get a higher frame rate,
mhm.
instead of being like, hey, it's, mid 90, I could be locked at 120.
Right. And
So
that's yeah.
benefits top to bottom. Everybody
Mhm.
benefits from DLSS who can take advantage of it.
Mhm.
DLSS 3 takes this a step further by creating frames.
Oh.
So this is going to be a weird thing to see how this plays out because it's kind of doing the I know what I just got rid of. I was just like I didn't realize what I just got rid of. I got rid of my preview window thing here because I was looking at myself again. Um so motion smoothing on a TV.
Yeah.
So it's generating frames to smooth out. So it's to get from 20, you can't go from 24 frames to 60. It's impossible on a movie because it's shot in 24 frames. Movies are not games. A GPU can render as many frames as you want as long as it is capable
Mhm.
and as long as it's not restricted by the coding of the game. A movie is set. A movie, once it's recorded, it's 24. What motion smoothing does is it inserts fake frames to make it look smoother,
Oh,
which is kind of what DLSS 3 sounds like it's doing.
yeah.
So it's creating this scenario where we have to see it in action, but it's like, yeah, it gets better frame rate performance. It's like in Cyberpunk, they compared it DLSS 2 to, or like having DLSS off was like 40 frames at 4K, high settings, whatever. It was almost 100 with DLSS 3.
Wow.
But is that going to be that weird, like awkwardly smooth? Is it going to be juddery
Yeah.
when it's, when it's rendering those additional frames that, or not rendering those frames, but kind of creating those frames? Is it going to create problems? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that we kind of have to see it to believe it and know what it's going to be. But in theory, their claims are with DLSS 3, a 4090 can get between 2 and 4 times the performance of a 3090. A 4080, the higher end model, can get between 2 and 4 times the performance of a 3080 Ti. And the low end 4080 can get between 2 and 4 times the performance of a 3080.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of give and take,
Mhm.
but if it works,
Yeah. I mean, how
it's kind of
is
hard to knock it.
in this realm, how is AMD keeping up with like FSR stuff?
FSR 2.0 has gotten much better. I believe they are
Mhm.
rolling out a new version of FSR with their new GPUs.
Okay.
So FSR is staying competitive. NVIDIA, I think, will always have the advantage, though, because with their learning algorithms, usually they have the better frame rate still, even if it's
Mm.
10%. Usually they still have it built. The advantage of FSR is it's easy to implement. It's in theory, according to AMD, it's easier to implement into the content pipeline. Whereas like with NVIDIA stuff, you have to go out of your way to implement DLSS. The number of people
Mm.
implementing it in their games, though, indicates to me that it can't be that tough because DLSS has a ton of compatibility and is getting more every day. But DLSS also offers a higher quality image.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of the thing is like if AMD can't match the quality and still can't match the frame rate, DLSS is still going to be the de facto solution. And then, it's still going to be good. And for the people who want it and need it, like I really think, I know Microsoft already said they're going to take advantage of it. I can't see PlayStation not taking advantage of it. In a year or two, I guarantee you we're going to see games coming out with FSR that are going to
Mhm.
be like, hey, this is how you're going to get, that's going to be your 60 FPS mode. They're going to make the games run at 4K 30, and then your 60 FPS mode is going to be with FSR.
Yeah. I mean, FSR is the only reason I was able to like play Mafia Definitive Edition at like 40 on my Steam Deck at like a reasonable frame rate was FSR.
FSR is going to
So
be such a boon to the Steam Deck.
yeah, yeah, I've used that on quite a few games. I'm excited to get back into Cyberpunk on my Steam Deck because apparently they fixed the Steam Deck preset to where it doesn't default everything to Ultra and
Oh,
blow up your Steam Deck. Now it actually works. So yeah, I
I'm
need to give that a
interested
shot.
to get back to
Yeah,
Cyberpunk on my PC when I get that
right.
4090
Yeah. Also heard
and
that
see
anime
what
is
that
really
does.
good.
I've heard the same thing and I really want to
Yeah,
watch it. You know
yeah.
what I started watching?
What?
The Boys. I'm 4 episodes in, or
Nice,
5 episodes in, I think.
nice,
I started it finally. Like the
nice.
other night, I was like, "Ugh, I don't know what to do. I don't really want to play something." I was like, I keep putting it on. I'm gonna watch The Boys, and like the first episode didn't grab me, but then like the second episode got me a little bit, and the third. Now I'm like, okay, I think I'm on for this ride.
It's a good show.
We'll
It's
see
a
what
good show.
happens.
It's way better than the comic. Oh god, the comic was rough. But The Boys is a very good show. I'm glad you're getting into it.
Yeah, so I'm giving that a shot. But I think
Yeah.
that's the end of my tech talk so far. New PC, phenomenal. Can't wait for the new GPU. Really put everything through its paces. I'm excited. Don't run out and buy this stuff. It's expensive. Because if you're gonna do the new AMD stuff, you got to buy DDR5 RAM and you got to buy a new motherboard. It's not plug and play, you know. So it's only for stupid people like me right now, with either disposable income or an insatiable desire to do stupid things.
It's the passionate,
I'm
I think,
that
is
one.
a kinder way to say
Sure,
you're
whatever you want to
passionate.
call it. Monster Hunter Rise has been installed.
Nice, nice. Uh, so yeah, so you started watching The Boys. Well, as of yesterday, when we were recording this podcast, Ryan Reynolds made the announcement that Hugh Jackman's coming back as Wolverine for Deadpool
Did you see
3.
that other thing I sent you today that they
Yeah, I
did?
did.
Yeah,
Yeah. Are you going to watch the first two Deadpool movies
at some
at some
point,
point?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
probably.
gonna watch them before the movie comes out?
Well, it's coming out in 2024, so I sure hope so.
Well, it's taken this long for you to not watch them
Yes,
already,
I'm
so
aware. I have
okay.
Disney Plus now, so
That's true. That's true, and they are on there now. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I think that was funny though. Or they're just like, "Hey,
yeah.
Hugh, you want to play Wolverine again?" He's like, "Sure,
Yeah.
whatever."
Dude, those movies are so fun. You would love those movies.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah. Um, you been watching anything else? Any anime?
Let me check my anime. Let me behold it very quickly. Every
Anime?
time I try and move a window on Windows 11, it's just like, "Hey, do you want to like dock this thing?" And at first I was like, "Boy, that seemed like a really cool feature." And the more it keeps like popping up, the more I'm like, "I think I want to turn this off." Yes, with my Twitch community, we've been doing an anime night. And we were off it for a long time. We fell off. And so we finally got back onto it. And over the last 2 weekends, we finally finished Gundam Seed.
Nice.
And we're going to start Gundam Seed Destiny this Sunday. And I fucking love Gundam Seed, dude. I love
Doesn't
that
get old.
show so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Freedom is my favorite Gundam. I just really, really like that show. There's something
Yeah.
about it. That was my first Gundam that like came out and I watched it from the start. You know, where it
Mhm.
was like I I wasn't ready for Gundam Wing when that came out. I thought it was really cool, but I only watched episodes here or there because it was on Toonami, and it was like I could only watch it like if my mom wasn't watching something or whatever. But Gundam Seed, it came on at a time where I was like, I knew I liked Gundam, and I was like, Mom, I want to watch this, and she was like, Okay, you watch it, and then you go to bed. And I'm like, Cool. And then it wasn't on for a while, and then I bought the DVDs, so I saw every episode. I saw them in order. I watched them repeatedly. Anytime a new DVD was coming out, I watched all of them over again. So I've watched the early parts of Gundam Seed so much that I hate it, but I also love it. And I like the ending parts of Gundam Seed so much. I watched them so much that I hate it. There's like a weird middle ground where I didn't watch a lot of those episodes over and over again. But yeah, Gundam Seed, it still hits those notes, and boy, there's a death at the end of that I fucking hate. Not that I hate it like it's bad. I hate it because it's
Mhm.
so good
Yeah.
and it was so perfect, and I hate it. And it gets me every time. Even when I know it's coming. And I was like, that was half the reason I wanted them to finish. I was like, guys, we gotta watch this. And then like it happened. They were just like, what? Like it was kind of quiet, and then everybody was quiet for a while, and I was like, pour one out. Like it was kind of like one of those deaths that everybody like it was like, ah, man, like
Yeah.
why did it have to be this person? And I was just like, yeah,
Yeah, I know.
gotta watch Destiny. I did start The Devil is a Part-Timer season 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that had come out yet.
I did. Uh eh.
I feel like when you wait for a season 2 for a really long time and it comes out, it's really hard for it to satisfy.
Yeah, because season 3 of Log Horizon was lousy.
Mm,
And that was a recent one. It's not bad. It's just weird. They got back, all the important members of the cast. I think they recast like one person, the friend from work for
oh,
what's her
yeah.
face.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like watching season 1 of that over again, I didn't like it as much as I had in the past.
Mm,
And then season 2 is just kind of more of that, and I'm like, "Huh,
gotcha.
okay." I'm like, "Maybe I'm not as much of a fan of this as I thought."
That's
I'm
too
glad
bad.
they made it, but I'm like, I'm on episode 3 and I'm like I
Yeah,
watched the first episode and I was like, "Okay." Then it took like a couple weeks and I watched the second episode and I was like, "Yeah, I'm still not
yeah.
quite there."
Mm. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of things that I'm just like, I don't know."
Yeah.
I watched an episode or two of Shuffle as well, and now it's also still very good.
Mm, nice.
So, I don't know what to tell you. Um, and I have begun watching Star Trek: The Next Generation again,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm watching season 1, and I'm seeing episodes come up, and I'm like, I didn't realize this was season 1, and like a bunch of them just in a row, and I was like, this is season 1, and I was like, season 1 is way better than I remember, but then I'm like, wait, I'm on like episode like 11 or something, and I'm like, wait, there's still a lot of time for this to not end well.
Yeah.
But like there's like even quotes that like I see in like YouTube videos of like, things, and I'm like, "Oh my god, these all came from season 1." And I'm like, so one of two things is going to happen. Either season 1 is way better than I remember and like season 2 is going to be a disaster, or season 1 starts off really good and then gets awful, and then season 2 is the same thing.
Probably the second one.
So, I don't know which one I want to come to fruition.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be right or wrong here. All I know is I just can't wait to get to season 3, because season 3 has some absolute banger. But season 1 has been like, I'm watching. I'm like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
these are some good episodes. Watching it again, I'm like, maybe it just got, I think the Star Trek community might be wrong so far, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, that's really, and then just playing, games here and there. I'll let you talk for a little bit, and then I'll come back because
Sure.
I've been talking for like almost an hour. I realize it's a problem.
Um, I haven't been watching a ton. I've been on a big sci-fi kick recently. Just trying to read
Why aren't we
some
watching Star
sci-fi stuff.
Trek?
It's a valid question. So I was like perusing like best sci-fi movies of all time and just going through lists and seeing like, oh, what's there and what should I
I'm
watch?
sure you saw Wrath of Khan.
I saw a couple Star Trek movies here and there.
Yeah, you probably also saw
Yeah.
First Contact.
Yeah, First Contact, yes.
First Contact
Um,
is real good.
and I was like, huh. And and then I was like, so I use Goodreads a lot for my books, which is powered by Amazon, and it's kind of a crappy platform that they don't update, but it's helpful to like track things and see what people are reading. And I found a similar app called Letterboxd for movies, and they have a bunch of lists that they make, and it's um, like highest rated sci-fi movies on the platform. And I opened it up, and number one was Interstellar, a Christopher Nolan movie. And I was like, "Huh, yeah, it's. I heard that was really good. I can't believe that came out in 2014. I can't believe it was that long ago. It feels like it came out a few years ago." But and so I was looking at more lists of sci-fi movies, and Interstellar constantly was toward the very top. And I was like, you know what? It's the weekend. Wife is out doing some business stuff. I'm just on the couch. I'll try Interstellar. I know it's a long movie, and I have somewhat of a checkered past with Christopher Nolan because I love Inception. But if you're familiar with the podcast, there's not a lot of love for The Dark Knight here. Um, so
It's
I was,
not. It's Man. If you remove how good, I know I'm telling you to remove the thing that makes the movie good, but
mm,
if you remove um
anytime Heath Ledger's not on
how
screen,
good Heath Ledger is in that movie, the writing is bad, the acting is bad, the movie is bad. And like the thing is like Heath Ledger is the only reason that movie is good.
Mhm.
That is a bad Batman movie. I still think the third one's the best one. But even that has a ton of problems.
I still think that
Inception has a ton of problems.
I still think the first. I think Batman Begins is still the best of the trilogy, or my favorite at least. It's the most consistent, I think, in terms of quality from beginning to end.
Probably.
Um, but so I was like, you know what? The more I've watched Inception, the less I like it. But it's still like at a pretty high baseline for me. I
Yeah.
still like a lot most of it.
Inception's one of those
Um,
movies that when somebody like explains it, it's just like, oh, like that's just an awful movie to have like to like watch one of those videos of like, how Inception works and then like or somebody points out like the plot holes and it's just like shit.
yeah.
And it's just like
Um,
draw a maze. Okay, now make this world. It's just like how does that work? How does that work?
use your imagination.
You
It's
we
all in the mind. It's all in the mind. Um, so
have to
yeah,
go
so
deeper.
so I watched Interstellar. It's like a 2.5 hour movie or 2 hours and 45 minutes. Um, and it stars Matthew McConaughey on an Earth that is slowly being taken over by something called the Blight, which is just like this massive dust storm that's perpetual and slowly killing out all of the food crops in the world. So, um, so like they take you to like a Yankees game, but the Yankees game is in like a country field stadium because like that's all that's left. And Matthew McConaughey used to be like used to test for fighter planes. Um, but now he's a farmer because that's the most important job in the entire world at this point. Um, but it turns out, obviously, once all this happened, funding did not go to NASA anymore. It went to everything agriculture. No one, the public would hate funds going to NASA. So
That's why
NASA went
people
under.
are dumb. That's why people are dumb. Always fund space. Always fund space. Space is the final frontier.
It
The
is the fun.
answers are in space.
They are in space.
Fund space. No, right now. Fund
Space.
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 Fund NASA. Don't give it to the
So
billionaires, give it to NASA.
yeah, so NASA goes underground, and because it's a Christopher Nolan movie, Michael Caine is there and is the lead scientist. Um, and basically, a wormhole has appeared next to Saturn. They're not sure why or how, but they've they had sent probes through it, and it took them to a different galaxy. And so there were some astronauts who took one man ships through the portal to try to find new habitable planets. Um, and so none of them have come back. So it's kind of a last ditch effort to go through and find them and see if they're still sending out a signal and if the planets that they found are habitable. And so Matthew McConaughey, um, oh my god, Anne Hathaway is in the movie, who plays Michael Caine's daughter. And then there's a couple other of like scientists who go on the trip, and they go through the wormhole and they start picking up signals and start trying to find habitable planets and find these people who went out earlier. A big conceit of the movie is time dilation. So Matthew McConaughey has these two kids at home. His wife died, but he has these two kids. It's like a 10-year-old daughter and like a 15, 16-year-old son. And so when he's out there and goes through the wormhole and he's getting close to all of these planets with super heavy gravitational pulls and going down to the surface, it's one of these things where like if you're down there for 1 minute, it's 7 days back on Earth, just with the way time dilation works. And so things go wrong. They get stuck on planets. Years pass back on Earth. And it's just this like, it's one of the few movies, probably in the past like 10, 15 years, that really made me feel like they were in space. Like it feels like
That's what I
just
hear.
so endless and vast. And it's just they did the human element really well. With McConaughey is phenomenal in
I,
that movie.
and I know the music in that movie. I watched a
The-
10 plus minute video
Yep,
on the music from that one scene,
yep,
the
yep.
alignment scene, and it's just like I watched a 10-minute video just talking about how good that track is at like the tick. That's how I learned about the concept of the ticking clock, and
Hmm.
like how that track is just like the perfect, like it's all about the metronome, and like how that song does the metronome without doing the metronome, and like just the way it builds that, like that scene is the music.
Yeah, it's just like genius when they go down to like their first planet. It's
Is
you
that the one with
constantly
the
hear.
mountains? But they're not
No, this is
mountain.
this is the
Okay.
ocean one.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
the one with the mountain. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the ocean
They're
one.
like,
Yep,
those aren't mountains.
yep, yeah.
Those are waves.
But like you constantly hear ticking in the background, and because beforehand they say like 1 second is the same as like 7 days or like a year or something back on Earth. So it's constantly ticking in the background, but the dilation is there because it doesn't tick every second. It ticks every 1.25 second, which ties directly to every time you hear it. It's like another week has passed, another week has passed, and they get waterlogged and have to spend like hours on the planet. And so all of this time is passing back on Earth. McConaughey's just trying to find a home for his kids, and his kids are now as old as he is, but he's still the same age as when he left. And it's like it's so it has the wonder of space. It has like the human element. It has like just like the science fiction, bro, is dope.
Yeah.
Like
When done
all of
right,
this,
it's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, it's like all of this stuff could be possible. There is a turn in the final act that not everyone loves. I do. I really enjoyed it. Um, but I literally at the end of that movie, I was tears were going down my face. Like emotionally, it just hit me really hard. And it's like The Matrix is my favorite movie of all time, another sci-fi movie. And I absolutely adore that. I watch it a couple times every year, but like Interstellar is up there. But it's like I can watch The Matrix at any time. I can be in any mood to watch that. Interstellar, like you want to watch that movie with the lights off, with the sound high, and just be completely immersed in it. And it's just one of those movies where it's like 2.5 hours long, but it doesn't feel that way, which is funny because so much of it is about time and how it molds and melts. Um, but yeah, if you get a chance, man, that turned into one of my favorite movies of all time. And just like watching it a second time, which I haven't done, but just like at the end of the movie as the credits were rolling, I was thinking back to some of the scenes like in the first hour. I'm like,
That was a
what?
lifetime ago.
No, I was like, the foreshadowing.
Oh.
Holy sweet mother of God. Like everything was right there.
Well, that's
Wow.
classic Christopher Nolan though.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. But
it's better when he doesn't have to spell it out like he did in the Dark Knight Returns, and he's just like, oh, I just the bistro in Italy, and then like at the
mhm.
ending scene in that movie in the bistro in Italy, it's just like, oh my god, Christopher, please.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's by far Christopher Nolan's best movie that I've seen. Um, I think that if you're a fan of space or science fiction, you should watch it. Again, there's that twist in the last third that some people didn't like, and is a little bit polarizing. But what is a Christopher Nolan movie if not polarizing? At least part of it. So that's kind of the only thing besides like football that I've watched recently. I have a bunch of stuff on my to watch list. It's just finding the time to do it. But yeah, Interstellar, super highly recommended. If you have not watched that movie, oh my god, that's a masterpiece. Um, and then so beyond that, I haven't played any games. My Steam Deck is back there, very sad at not having gotten any use recently. But if you've been with us for a long time, and as Chris knows, I go in spurts of my hobbies and being just 100% in on them. So I'll have a period of a few months where I'm just into games and that's all I do, and I'll have a few months where I'm just into like movies and TV, which is just all that I do. Right now I'm back in a phase of reading, which is all I'm doing. So I'm still reading The Wheel of Time, which is the 15 book fantasy series. I'm on book
That's
5.
got to be a struggle reading fantasy but watching sci-fi.
It's a nice break from each other, to
Okay.
be honest. Yeah, where it's like swords and goblins and then space. They balance each other out actually. So I'm on book 5 of that. It's a almost 1,000-page book, and I think I'm on like in the 700s at this point. Um, I read. Oh, well, no, I can't show it the camera. But so yeah, most of the books are between 500 and like 900 pages.
They
So I'm
used
on
to
book
be
5.
games. Now it's all books. Where did the games go? Where do they live?
Games are in the corner right here, still in those same cabinets,
So
but
is the closet just your current love? You just rotate
uh,
it out? No,
no, it's always the bookshelf because
I
that's the
thought there were
best place
games in
for
there
it.
before, but maybe not.
There were
Oh, okay.
games. All those games just got moved to the corner over
Okay.
here. Um, so I'm reading that. I am reading, or I finished "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep" by Philip K. Dick, who is, if you don't know, Blade Runner is the adaptation of that book. And I've never seen Blade Runner, and I wanted to read the book before I saw the movie and watch Blade Runner 2049. It was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who directed the new Dune movie, which is incredible, and I love it. Um, so I finished that in 2 days. It's not a super long book, but it was really good. It holds up. Like it was written in like '68 or something, but it definitely still holds up. Um, Read book 1 of the Murderbot Diaries, which is basically it's in space. This mining expedition is sent down to this planet, and they're given like a bodyguard robot, like security robot to protect them on the planet from flora, fauna, and anything else. But the robot is like a depressed robot. So like all he wants to do is like sit in his pod and watch all of the TV shows he downloaded before he left for the mission. And he's just bummed out all the time, and like he has social anxiety, and it's amazing. And they're super short. They're novellas, so they're only like 100 pages long or something, but the audiobook is what I was listening to. And that was really good. There's I think 6 books in that series, and they're all novellas except one, which is a full length novel, I think. Um, but but yeah, that's kind of all I've been doing recently. Is reading and just trying to watch some movies. I realized like as I was building my library on that Letterboxd app of like things I've watched, like there are so many movies that I have not seen, and like really big movies that I should see. Where it's like maybe for those who don't know, I'm getting jaw surgery next week, so I will be bedridden for a while, which is a perfect opportunity for movies. So I'll probably catch up on some there as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I haven't been watching a ton, so I'm going to talk about what I've played.
sure.
I, on my Gundam kick, purchased SD Gundam Battle Alliance.
Hmm.
That game is fun.
Hmm.
I normally hate SD Gundam because I
Is that
just
like the
don't like.
Chibi Gundam?
Yep.
Yeah,
But this one just scratches that itch. It's just quick missions, go in, bust up a couple mobile suits, maybe fight a Gundam at the end, and then cool. And then, I unlock the freedom. And they have a custom music setup. And so every time I do my special like burst ability thing as the freedom, it plays my favorite opening theme song from Gundam Seed, but it
yeah,
plays the whole song. And so it's just J-pop for 2 minutes.
it's pretty good.
And then if I use it again, it restarts.
Yes.
And then afterward, like, it'll change. Like if something happens, it'll change the music. But then I use my special again. It's like and I'm like, yeah, every time.
Oh god.
But yeah, so that's been fun playing
Yes.
that. It's a fun little game. It's got co-op. And it's cool. So like you can, upgrade your mobile suit and like you give it you buy like, upgrades and stats and stuff. And, um, you can unlock those mobile suits and their pilots to be like buddies on your missions if you're not playing co-op. The story is, it's all in Japanese. I just skip it.
That's fair.
Like it's translated, but the voice acting's not there. And so, in the mission, they're talking. I'm not reading that. I'm busting up mobile suits, so
Yeah, as you do.
as you do, and so I've just been playing a lot of that. I gotta start Gloomwood. I'm looking through my games. I did dabble in a little bit of Halo Infinite because I got my HDR monitor, and
Oh, nice.
HDR does look glorious in Halo Infinite. However, the game is super boring. Uh, I got in there, I got into a good little gameplay groove. I cleared out a base, and I was like, cool, I'm good,
Yeah.
I'm good, and I put it down. I
Open world.
I've started kind of dabbling in Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis because
Hmm.
somebody was like, "Hey," like I think Nat started to play it, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Man, I should get into that."
Yeah.
I did pick up a couple games recently that I want to not get rid of, get into. I picked up Gloomwood, which is from the creator of Dusk, and
Oh, okay.
it's someone else. And I don't want to be disrespectful to them, but I just know that David Szymanski is working on it, and Dusk Dev is cool because he made Dusk, and I love Dusk. Um, I also picked up Proteus, which is another kind of old school Doom like shooter. But this one actually has co op, and I kind of want to play that.
Oh,
But
nice.
it also has like a really good like visual style to it.
Mhm.
Because it's like it looks modern, but it's all I think it's like it's
Is
not
it voxels?
voxel. It's not voxel. But it kind of has the look of it almost. Like
Mhm.
it's like it from broad strokes, it looks modern, and then like when you get up close is when you kind of see the pixelation.
Mm. Okay.
So it's really good. Andrew Hulst does the soundtrack. He did the Dusk soundtrack, a
Mm.
Medieval. He did the Doom Eternal expansions.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Nice.
his track record is a lot of these Doom games, Doom likes. So very much down to hear another soundtrack from him. And I picked up Terra Invicta, which is like a space kind of like 4X kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, I picked that up because I kind of want to give it a shot. It's anything to scratch that sci-fi itch right now. They did finally announce Sins of a Solar Empire 2.
Oh, really?
Yes, which I feel
Oh,
partially
wow.
responsible for because that was the most popular article we ever had on HalfGen.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So I'm taking partial responsibility for that. I have willed another game into existence. It's entering early access, I think maybe before the end of this year. Um, but it's apparently going to be like a retelling of the first game. There's still no campaign or anything like that, but they've
Mm.
kind of hammered home like like what they want those factions to be. And so now there's going to be like more choice going into like when you pick a faction, it's because they're specifically good at these specific things.
Mhm.
So there are things that like other factions won't have access to because one faction like has it like they said like trade there's going to be like certain trade lines and only the traders emergency coalition is going to have access to it because they're like it's their system, that's where the game takes place, and they're the trader coalition. It's like they're the ones who should have it.
Mm.
So there's a lot of cool stuff that they're doing with that. And otherwise I've been playing Destiny, go figure. um this
And
season's been cool.
you're gonna get into Gundam Seed Destiny now.
Yeah, I know. They said Destiny a lot at the end of Gundam Seed. Um, you know what's really cool? Because I watched the HD edition of those. They still have the old dubs, which are what I like because that's what I'm used to.
Sure. Yeah.
But what's cool is in that HD edition, they actually added a lot of scenes that allude to Gundam Seed Destiny. So like
Yeah.
there's a scene, there's a spoilers for Gundam Seed from 2004. There's a battle that takes place where the Earth forces attack Orb, which is a nation of Earth, but they have pledged neutrality. So they're just like, we're not getting involved with either of you. You both suck. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And then the Earth forces who are cut off from space are like, nah, you have a mass driver. Let us use it, or we're going to fucking melt your country.
Okay.
And they were like, they gave him the finger, and, so they went to war. And it was like, so this takes place like an episode or two after, like, Kira just came back, everybody just realized he's alive, he's in the Freedom, he's got this nuclear powered mobile suit, and like, it's crazy, it's nuts, and so he's just like, I'm gonna go defend Orb. And so the Archangel and him, they're out there fighting and everything, and there's this scene, the first episode of Gundam Seed Destiny takes place during the attack on Orb, because the main character of the main character, it changes, but the main character of Gundam Seed Destiny used to live on Orb, and he was evacuating, and they showed him in Gundam Seed. They showed one of the scenes from that first episode in Gundam Seed, in the new version. Like, there's a flyby scene of that battle, and it shows Shin and his family like ducking out of the way and stuff, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, oh, cool. And then like there's scenes that like there's speeches that happen that transmit to like all of Zaft and everything, and you see clips that have Shin in it, like of him listening to the speech and stuff, and you're just like, oh shit. And so like you see what he's doing, like a little bit of the setup of him for Destiny, which I think is really good. And really well done that they added those things in. And like, to me, as somebody who has seen Destiny, I'm like, oh shit, I know that dude, and that stuff to me is really cool. But for somebody who hasn't seen it, they're not going to think about that. They're just going to think, oh, random Zaft guy. Okay. Whatever. Or random civilian evacuating Orb. And then they get to Gundam Seed Destiny and they're like, wait a minute, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Gundam Seed Destiny has a lot of I know that guy moments.
Mm-hmm.
Part of why it kind of isn't as good, but also ends up being really good. It's a weird show, weird fucking show. I love it. But yeah, I haven't really been playing a ton. I'm installing a ton right now.
Yeah, true.
Setting stuff up. I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like there was something else. I've been playing a little more Elden Ring, both on deck and the seamless co-op mod. I changed up the way I've been playing it, and I've been having a much better time going back to my classic, like Claymore plus Shield.
Nice.
It's just
Very
life is better this way,
I wish the Kirk hammer was in that game.
God, I love the Kirk. I always liked the sword though. I was always a big fan of, I think it's like the Godric sword or whatever.
Ludwig's Holy
Ludwig,
Blade.
thank you. I don't know why I was thinking Godric. It's been a while. Ludwig's Holy Sword. That was the thing I always used. Like the Kirk hammer was the big sword, and then like you pop the sword out of it. The smaller,
It goes from like sword to great sword, basically.
Yeah, no, I always liked that thing, and then I ended up being a big great sword stan in Dark Souls. So crazy how that shit works, Just that's my style. And then I start playing that in Elden Ring, and I'm like, yeah, I was using katanas and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, but now I'm using the great sword. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, boom, boom, block, yeah. Here we go. Yeah, I think that's all I really got. We played Monster Hunter. We started playing Monster Hunter, a group of us. I I changed my weapon again because I was using the heavy bow gun, and I was like, I don't, actually using it to fight some monsters. I was like, I don't think I.
Uh, you said you were not going to switch for the PC port from the whatever it was. I forgot
Hmm?
the
Oh
weapon you
no,
used on
no,
Switch.
but I did decide to switch, and I switched to the heavy bow gun, and then I
Oh,
was using the heavy bow gun, and I was like, I don't like this. So I found something I love more than both of them:
oh, which one?
the hammer.
Oh
It's
well, yeah,
hammer time.
I love big
The
bonks.
hammer is really good in Monster
That-
Hunter Rise.
That's why I like the hunting horn so much.
Dude,
Yeah,
like that hammer, and like I was playing with Nat, and he was like, "Yo, you charge this up when they get knocked down, and you just spin to win." And I'm like, "Oh," and I'm spinning. I'm like, "Yeah,
spinning and you're winning.
woo!" I'm
Yeah,
having a great time. It feels good to be alive. Uh, yeah, I'll be honest. I thought I'd have a little bit more. This is a weird month. It's just there's a lot going on. I've been focused on my tech. I haven't actually been playing a ton of games this month, in general, and then I haven't been streaming a lot, and we're working on some stuff behind the scenes.
we are.
There
We
is
are
things in the works.
indeed, indeed.
HalfGen started as a website, remember?
And now we have a SoundCloud.
We had a SoundCloud, actually, remember, because that's where episode 1 went up.
Oh yeah.
Before we
No,
could host it, episode 1 went up before we had a website. So
HalfGen
technically,
is
we had a SoundCloud before.
HalfGen is turning into a music group with me and Chris.
Yeah. Our debut album, This Is Where It Starts, is going to release on November 11th.
Yep.
What's our debut single?
Um, I think it's "Oh No, Not Again."
I think that just encapsulates. That is the Motown Philly of our career.
It really is.
That
Started
is
a website again? Oh no, not again.
we should just do a remix of Motown Philly, but just half gen.
That would be great and terrible.
Half gen back again.
Oh my
Oh
god.
god.
Um, but yeah,
Oh,
stuff in
I
the
remember
works.
what I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you. How is your
Yes.
fantasy going? We might as well follow up on that. We talked about that last
Sure.
month. How's
Uh,
fantasy?
In one league, I'm 2-1. In my main league, I'm 1-2. Both of my starting running backs got hurt. I had David Montgomery and I had Dalvin Cook, and I've not actually looked to see how serious their injuries are because I was so annoyed. Um, but I'm doing okay. How about you?
I was hoping you would talk for like 2 more seconds because I had to sneak a snack because I was like, oh man, I gotta put something in my body. Um, I am actually 3-0 in both of my leagues,
Oh, there we go.
and I'm doing it almost entirely. I'm not. I'm telling you, in the future, I'm not drafting running backs in the first round ever again.
Hmm.
Wide receivers,
Yep.
they're my bread and butter. Last week, Amon-Ra St. Brown on the Lions got me 39.4.
Yeah.
Wide receivers are the key to victory, man. Like
Yep. Oh yeah, Herbert was
my
hurt. Yeah.
my paid league is actually doing really well because I have Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. So that's actually been doing really good for me. And Stephon Diggs and Miles Sanders. I have a lot of Eagles on that team.
Mm.
I also have Dallas Goddard. Um,
Yo, the
yeah.
first 2 weeks of the season. So, like I mentioned when we talked about this originally, I'm in a super flex league. So we have a flex spot, and then we have another spot where you can start a quarterback or any other position. And so I got Carson Wentz for that. The first 2 weeks, averaging 30 fantasy points. Week 3, nosedive, which is what you get with Carson Wentz. And then I have Justin Herbert, who obviously got hurt. Dalvin Cook, who's questionable. I got Deebo Samuel, Gabe Davis, who's been kind of in and out. George Kittle's apparently supposed to be back full strength this week against your Rams. So that's see how that goes. And my kicker Harrison Butker's been out. So and Mike Evans was out last week for me because he was suspended. So yeah, I'm doing about as well as I usually do in fantasy, which is after the draft, I'm projected to finish top 3, and then I always finish bottom 3. So that's fun.
It's funny because I came out of my first draft and I was like, I'm not happy with my team, and I'm 3-0 and I'm projected to win again. And
Yeah.
then I came out of my paid draft being like, I'm feeling okay, and my team has been crushing it. And so
Yeah.
I'm projected to win again in that league.
Nice. Nice.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm feeling very good about myself. I'm telling you, dude, next chance, I'm telling you, let the running backs go because they're
Yeah.
so inconsistent. And
Mhm.
like, just draft wide receivers, dude.
Yeah.
Wide receivers are how you get points. Because even if your wide receivers will outscore your quarterback. If you have you know Patrick Mahomes and his best receiver, and his best receiver, if he throws 3 touchdowns to that receiver, the receiver scores like 50% more points
Mhm.
because they get the catches, they get the yards,
Right.
they get the touchdowns. And like, that's the thing, is it's more valuable to have Patrick Mahomes best receiver than it is to
Mhm.
have Patrick Mahomes.
Right. Right.
And that's why, like, dude, I have Aaron Rodgers on my bench because Jalen Hurts. Why would I not start him?
Well, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why would you not start Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts has been insane.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers might throw 6 touchdowns next week, but Jalen Hurts will still get more points.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Hurts and Tua both killing it early in the season. My God. It's crazy. It's Chiefs had a very ugly loss last week to fall
I
to
wasn't
2
going
and
to bring it
1.
up.
You know, played terribly. Chris Jones lost us the game with a penalty that kept the drive alive where they scored the winning touchdown, which was a real bummer. And our offense was just terrible. So we'll see what happens. I mean, 2 and 1 still, so that's good. And I mean,
Rams
we have
clawed their way back to 2-1.
yeah, yeah,
Ugly
and
games, but we got there.
yeah, and
Hey,
that's
you
kind
know
of
what? We showed up the Cardinals, though. Everybody
yeah,
thought after they beat the Raiders, and I'm like, no, the Raiders had no right to lose that game.
yeah. The Cardinals,
Like,
the Cardinals are overrated.
7 rushing yards.
Yeah,
That's what we held Murray to. 7. I've been
yeah,
saying, dude, all offseason, I'm like, Kyler Murray is not the guy. He's not the guy worth that kind of money.
yeah. I mean,
And they
yeah,
paid him because they had to, because it's
mhm,
life with him or life without him. And life
yeah,
without him is Josh Rosen. You don't know what you're going to get. But, and again, I was right then too, because everybody was like, yo, Josh Rosen, Josh Rosen. I was like, no, Josh Allen is the better quarterback. And everybody's in the draft. They're like, no, he's too raw. He's too raw. And I'm like, you can't teach arm strength. You can teach the talent to use it. And wow, lo and behold, I was right.
yeah, yeah. The Cardinals are. I mean, we dropped 40 plus on them week 1. They're
Yeah.
not as good as people think they are. Um, but yeah. So it's yeah. Both my team and my wife's team lost last week, so she didn't get to gloat, which was nice. All of our teams are 2 and 1, except for Zane's and the Bengals. uh,
See what happens.
yeah, we'll see. But
That Super Bowl
well,
hangover is a real thing.
yeah. Well, you have begun snacking,
I
and
can't. I'm like getting a shake, so I had to put
yeah,
something in here.
I'm probably on
I
my way
wasn't
to dinner
expecting
pretty
it.
soon. So it's a good podcast. Um, the next podcast for October, it is TBA if I will be here or if we will get a guest because of the aforementioned jaw surgery. Not sure
Ideally,
how well I'll be able to speak.
if you're up for it, I would like to
Oh,
podcast
of
with
course,
you, my brother,
of
my
course,
dearest friend.
of course.
If you don't mind, I'd like to podcast at your side. Anything
Like
could
an
be a Nightmare Before Christmas song.
yeah, I didn't know. For a second, I was like, "So you just want to come here and record in person?" Okay,
No.
yeah, sure,
Yeah,
whatever,
I mean, shit.
whatever.
I realized I still have something I have to give you. Like the thing I ordered something for you like a year ago,
Oh,
and
really?
like I still have it here, and I keep forgetting to bring it. It's like it's just like I might as well tell you at this point because I bought one. I bought one for me. I bought one for Zane. It's like this hand drawn like I got it. It's some dude in Australia. I bought it on Etsy. Pencil drawn like ODST.
Oh,
That's
nice.
real nice. Zane like saw I got it for him and I was like, I hope he likes it. Like I know he likes ODSTs. He looked at it and he was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. He put it right up behind his bar. He pinned it up
Yeah,
immediately and I was like, yes. He's like, "This is awesome, dude. Thank you." And I got it for his birthday last year. I was like, "Yes, dude, I got you. I bought a Master Chief for me, and I got you an Arbiter,
Oh,
just
nice.
pencil drawn Arbiter." And it's
I
like, it's
love me some
nice. Yeah,
RB.
again, you know.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like, speaking of the Arbiter, you know what? I'm not. I promise, I'm not just trying to like intentionally pad this, but dude, you know what turned 15 years old the other day? You know, because we talked about it. Freaking Halo 3.
My favorite Halo game.
Freaking
Yep.
Halo 3. 15 years, dude. I was
What a game.
17 years old. And like I'm remembering because like I'm like, you know, because people on Twitter are like, where were you know, what happened? What did you go to the midnight release? And I was like, I remember I was like, I had to ask my mom to go. That's the
Mhm.
age I was at still. I had to ask my mom if I could go. I was old enough to buy the game, but she wasn't gonna let me drive. Cause she's like, it's midnight, I'm not letting you drive. And I'm like, look, Tony and Zane are gonna go with me. They're gonna stay with me the whole night. You just have to pick us up and bring us home. She's like, are you freaking kidding me? You're gonna make me come and get you at midnight? I was like, Mom, this is the biggest thing in gaming. This is the absolute biggest thing. I don't ask you for much with this stuff. This is the first and only time I'll ever ask you. I want to get this game at midnight. And she was like, because I bought the legendary edition and
Mhm.
everything. And then she was like, all right, I'm gonna do it for you this once. I get it. Fine.
Yeah.
And dude, I remember I was sixth in line in a line that went further than I could see in that damn mall. And God, what a friggin' time.
Yeah, dude.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be playing games. Like I don't necessarily miss midnight releases, but I
Yeah,
miss
the
when
spectacle.
games came out like that.
Yeah, it
Like
was
when a
yeah.
Halo 3 hit because you
It was
know,
like a cultural thing, whereas now it's just like, "Oh, it's preloaded, great."
yeah, no, it's just like there's no
Camaraderie.
yeah, you know, it's just like it was a bunch of people who were just like, you didn't ask, oh, are you here for Halo 3? Of course you're here for Halo 3. It's like, it's just people in line being like, oh, you guys pumped for Halo? Like, yeah, people are
It
ordering like Domino's. They're like,
Yep.
hey, guys, here you go. You want some pizza? And it's like, yo,
Yeah, it's like
these are the coolest people in the world right now.
those lines were like a microcosm of, like, a convention where it's like you're there, everyone's there with a shared interest, and everyone's super pumped about it,
And
and
like
that's just doesn't exist
for the
anymore.
most part, it was like it was a concentrate. It was a good group of people. Like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, yeah.
the best of us for the most part. You know, it was like you get a couple bad apples in there. You know, a couple people who are assholes try to cut the line, whatever. But like, you know, I remember one time I went to go pick up Gears of War 2 at midnight, and I went with Zane again, and he walked to the front of the line and said dibs, and the person in second just looked up at him and was like, "Son of a bitch." He called dibs. And so I had the front of the line now. And I was like, wait, are you serious? He's like, I gotta respect it. He called dibs. And Zay's like, yeah, that's a smart man. I respect that. And I was just like, holy shit. But like that's the thing. Those were the crowds, you know? It was
Yeah.
good times. And then they did too many. There were too many midnight
Mm,
releases. It got too
yeah.
busy and it just became a thing. And I remember the last time I went to pick something up at midnight, it was like Wolfenstein 2, like the new Colossus, because I bought the collector's edition. I had it at 10 o'clock. They were like, go home.
Yeah.
This isn't midnight at all. It's 10 o'clock. What the hell? What? Man, it was a different time, but man,
Yeah.
great times.
Something's definitely been lost there,
Yeah. But
but
don't worry, E3 will be back
great.
in person this year.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's get a big enough following to go. Spread the
Sure.
word. Half Gen wants to go to E3. You don't need to give us any money. Just get a bunch of people to listen to our podcast and click our links and just, you know, just enough that the E3 people will be like, yeah, you can go.
Yeah, yeah, that's all we need.
It's all we need. Just somebody to be like, yay, okay. All right, I guess. Meh. All right. Ross, it has been a pleasure.
As always.
Friends out there listening, it has been a pleasure. Don't forget to follow at official HalfGen on Twitter for updates on the future.
Space. We're going to space.
We're going to space. I'm proud of you, son. Follow me. I'm at Nightmare CV. You can also watch my Twitch. We didn't stream this one live this week. That's probably why we didn't have as much to talk about. We didn't do this live.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what?
I didn't even think about it.
Once we do it with a crowd, you can't go back for a while. Like you got to stop, give it a break, and then come back.
Yeah.
You know, if we did, we're gonna try and stick with the crowd thing. I just, before we started, it was just getting late, and I was like, let's just go. Let's just get it started. I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
That's on me.
No,
But
yeah,
twitch.tv/NightmareCV. Just NightmareCV pretty much anywhere you want.
You can follow me at RP Orlando 91 on Twitter. And tweet at us things you want us to rank. If you missed our last episode.
Oh, we were supposed to rank something.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. But it's too late now.
It's too late. Next time.
Yeah, but our last episode we ranked the top 10 years in gaming history going back to 1997, which was a lot of fun.
And prior to that, we ranked the trilogies in game. Oh no, that's what it was. We did a video for that one.
Oh,
so last podcast we ranked the top 10 trilogies in games, just the successive 3-game trilogy, continuous story kind of thing. And then we did a video on our YouTube, which I believe the link to that is on Twitter. It will also be on halfgen.com when that's you can go there now. It's nothing really, but someday it'll be something. Someday. I think it's there. But yeah, we did a video where we ranked the top 10 years in gaming. We might have to make an addendum to that at some point and just correction episode.
Yeah.
Because we might have made some mistakes, but
you know
what? It's you live and learn.
Yep, it's fun. And things that you want us to rank doesn't have to be just games. It can be anything. We might not have the knowledge base, but
if I don't know, I'll still rank it. Don't you worry. I'll find a way.
Absolutely. It can be like my wife when her first fantasy
I'll
draft,
rank his wife, I'm kidding.
Where she just drafted players by how much she liked their last name. It could be that.
It can work.
It can work.
It can work.
Tweet at us fun stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you for listening. And yeah, the next time you hear me, I will sound a little bit more like this, jaw a little bit closed, and maybe I'll just talk like this.
Oh shit! Through the Wire Part 2 by Ross Orlando. Do I use that this week or next week? I don't know. Or month, I mean. It's gold, dude. It's gold. We didn't come up. Oh, we'll figure it out off. Okay. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.